surface, do I look at you all and I'm just jealous as can be? And people always guess different things. And somebody will eventually say, "'Cause sir, all of that's in front of us and all of it's behind you." And that's spot on. So I look at all the opportunities in that video and I think, all of those wonderful opportunities are in front of you. And the reason I asked David and Serena and Antonio those questions is this: the Army's got a lot of opportunities. So the first thing we want to do is dispel myths. Some people are thinking, well, I'm going to go in the Army, but I'm going to be filthy, muddy, eating horrible food, sleeping in a tent, and everything I do has got to involve a weapon, sleeping on the ground, and not bathing. Not so. Will you do all of those things as a cadet? And will you do all of those tough, hard, smelly, demanding things as a soldier? Absolutely. But when you look at the video we just showed you, it gives you a quick glimpse of the over 17 different career fields we've got in our Army. And while you're going to do soldier skills because you're in the Army, and you will learn how to engage things with your weapon. You will learn how to patch up your buddy or yourself if you get a hole in yourself. You will learn how to do soldier skills, which are shoot, move, communicate, use a compass, talk on a radio. That's going to happen. But once you go into the Army, into what we call your branch, your career field, there are tremendous opportunities for you. From lab coats to high-tech equipment, to jumping out of airplanes with 100 pounds of gear on your back and walking as far and as much as you want with all that stuff. So I'd like to talk a little bit about the Army, because this path you're on, it's what it leads to. Army's not just a class. ROTC is just not a class that you audit and say, well, that was kind of neat for the experience. If you do Army ROTC, at some point, we're going to ask you to raise your hand and say, hey, I'm in this to win it. Usually the start of your junior year. You can just take the classes and do the exercising and walk around in the woods with us for 2 years. And the start of your junior year, we're going to say, hey, it's time to say I'm on track for this Army thing. And so this is a rather unique class that we know leads to the Army profession. And in that Army profession, I think you should know a little bit about it. So the Army's about 1 million people strong in uniform. We've got about half of those on what we call active duty. That's folks like me. I haven't had to match my shoes to my belt to my tie for 30 years. I wake up each day, I put on this Army uniform right here, and off I go to do what the training schedule tells me. We've got about half of that 1 million people that wake up every day and do Army work. The other half are in what we call the reserve component. You've heard of these called your Army Reservists and your Army National Guard. They are always soldiers. They live the Army values, they abide by the Army values, and they're a soldier 24/7. But they spend a lot of their time, and most of their time, pursuing some other career field. So 1 weekend a month, a couple of weeks in the summer, and as their nation or their state may need them, like in these times of COVID-19, 3 of our cadets are mobilized right now with the Virginia National Guard, and they're around the state performing duties. But when you're not doing those things in a normal Monday through Friday week, you can be anything you want. You can do nothing if you happen to be independently wealthy, or you can have a job of any sort. You can be a college student. So that's about 1 million of us in uniform. And we've got several 100,000 Department of Army civilians like Miss Millay that help keep this great Army team running. I already told you we got 17 career fields. She's going to show you, Miss Millay, is a picture of each career field. If it's done in the world, we've got an Army person doing it. From somebody doing fake eyeballs to somebody shooting rockets into space to astronauts in space wearing the Army uniform. If it's being done, we've got Army people doing it. I'll tell you a little bit about the culture you will join, because I think it's important for you to understand the team you might be joining. So we've got one word that kind of underpins the Army profession. We say it is the bedrock of the Army profession, and that's the word trust, T-R-U-S-T. We're very big on maintaining trust. We think we have to maintain trust with kind of 3 groups of people. The first we got to maintain trust with is the American public. They pay taxes, we protect them, they have us as their servants, we serve the American public, and so we think it's a pretty good thing. We should maintain trust with them. The simplest way we have found that the American public can maintain trust in us, if we're competent in what we do, every one of us is getting paid to do a job, we should be good at it. We think we should be doing things in a character-filled manner. That means it's not just about what we're doing, it's about how we do it. And we think we should stay committed to the mission we're given. That means we know our jobs, we're doing it in a proper character-filled manner, and we don't quit when times get hard. So, since the Army is very big on trust and making sure we are competent in our job, we're doing things in a character-filled manner, and that we stay committed to our team, our soldiers, our mission, and our nation, and the Army values and all those things. That's what we talk a lot about in Army ROTC. Those are a lot of the things we focus on in our attempts to educate, train, develop, and inspire you to be a great leader who can then go maintain trust with the American public. Now, you might be thinking, competent, what kind of competencies are you going to give me? You mean you've got cannons there I get to shoot and helicopters you're going to make me competent on? No, not my job in ROTC. The Army's going to teach you how to do one of those 17 different job skills. My job's to make you a competent junior leader. So everything we talk about here for 4 years will be focused on developing your leadership skills. When you see us out walking around in the woods with fake rifles and doing infantry operations, I'm not trying to make a great infantry officer out of you. I'm putting you in scenarios where I can evaluate your leadership. When I help you jump off of the high dive board in the Virginia Tech pool with lots of gear on you and you fall into the water, I am working at building your resilience and your confidence. I'm not teaching you to be an Olympic diver or a Virginia Tech diver. So maintaining trust with the American public is pretty big to us, and we're going to work on your competency, your character, and your commitment. The second group of people we think it's important to maintain trust with is your subordinates. We call that the leader to lead trust. All of you making it through the program will be a lieutenant in the Army, and you'll have anywhere from 1 to 50 soldiers working for you, and they should have trust in you. We think the one simplest way for your soldiers to maintain trust with you is if you leave and live this motto. It's real simple. It's not about me. If I could tattoo it on your palm, it would say, it's not about me. If you focus your lifestyle on that motto, you might make wrong decisions, but I would challenge you that you'll never make a bad decision. If you take away yourself from all decision making, if you take away yourself in all thought, you'll never do something selfish. You'll never do something seeking glory. You'll never do something out of fear for how it might affect your career. You'll focus all of your service and all of your decisions on pure and wholesome things like your soldier's career, the mission, the customer, the nation, your oath of office, the Constitution, the Army values, the soldier creed, honor, integrity. So it's not about me. That's going to be the theme of your leadership education here at Virginia Tech. And the last group we think you got to maintain trust with is look left and right in your screens right now, just like this is the old Hollywood Squares or the Brady Bunch. All those people in those squares to your left and right, you got to maintain trust with your peers. Your peers have got to trust you. Noah's got to know Antonio's going to be there when he gets in a bad way. Michael's got to know John's going to be there for him. So we have another saying. It comes right out of the Army Creed. The saying is, I will never leave a fallen comrade. I will never leave a fallen comrade. If you can live that motto, if you can carry yourself in that manner, then your peers will always trust you. And I'm not just talking about on the battlefield. Everybody has seen the movie and thought, I could do that. There's no way I would leave Antonio on the battlefield. Well, that's the easy one to say. What about 2 years from now when you finally get to leave the Corps Cadet Barracks and you're downtown and one of you sees the other one in a bad way, too much to drink, leaning all over somebody you shouldn't be leaning all over, getting ready to do an act you shouldn't do, driving something you shouldn't get behind the wheel of, struggling in a class. If you turn your back on that person, if you have a hand you can lend, if you know the matter better and can tutor, if you can walk them home safely, if you can pull them out of a situation that's about to end their career, if you do that, you've left a battle buddy and let them fall. And so we work on that a lot here. You've got to be able to lean on each other. So that's a little bit about our Army. Our Army is about trust, and our job is to build junior leaders, you, to go serve as second lieutenants in a character-filled, competent way, committed to your soldiers and mission, living the "it's not about me" motto, and prepared to never, ever, in any circumstances, in any environment, leave a comrade on the battlefield. That's what we're all about here. So how do we do that here? What do we do? Well, we get you in as freshmen. First, the Corps gets a week with you, and they shave your head, and they give you uniforms, and they march you to and fro, and then you have a parade on the Saturday of New Cadet Week, and then you start classes with us. Freshmen go to class 1 day a week for 50 minutes, and then you have lab once a week. The labs are on Tuesdays, just like other classes. And for those 2 hours at lab, you'll be doing all of those soldier type things we talked about. Your first year, you're learning how to apply medical bandages, how to put a radio in operation, what is an azimuth, and how do I shoot one using a compass. We're going to teach you how to walk around in the woods and get from point A to point B without the Waze app on your iPhone. It's called old school. It's got a north pointing arrow. It's called a compass. Look one up before you get here. And as you progress to your sophomore year, you'll still be in class once a week with the lab once a week. Junior year, 3 times a week and lab. Senior year, 3 times a week and lab. But what about PT? Don't we do physical training? Yep. The average cadet is doing PT 3 days a week. Monday, Wednesday, Friday, 5:30 to 6:30. That means while 98.43% of your peers at Virginia Tech are sound asleep at 5 or 5:05 or 5:10 or 5:15, if you're really like to live on the edge, you're up, you're shaved, you're in the Army PT uniform, and you're forming up on the drill field. And then we sweat a lot from 5:30 to 6:30, and you run back up to barracks, and you're in formation at 7:30, putting the flag up with the Corps. If you are in exceptionally good shape and you score high enough on the Army physical fitness test, we let you out of Friday morning. We know cadets and students like their time. So now you're down to 2 days a week, 5:30 to 6:30. If you fail the Army physical fitness test, or you fail the height weight test, meaning you're overweight, you're at PT 5 days a week, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday. Once a semester, we go out and sleep on the ground. We camp for 2 nights. We leave on a Friday morning super early. We come back Sunday afternoon, and you do a lot of marching and military things for those 3 days, and you sleep on the ground for 2 nights in a row. That's the bulk of what we do in the program. We also have a mandatory training session that you will go to before your senior year. It is the only mandatory summer training you must go to. It's about 35 days long. You'll go out to Kentucky and you'll do all kinds of neat training. The purpose of all of this training on Tuesdays, in class, at PT, the summer one, or any additional you go to, is for us to develop you as leaders and assess your leadership potential and your performance. The start of your senior year, you're going to fill out some paperwork. You're going to say, hey, I want to go in the reserves, or I want to go active duty. Even on scholarship, you can wait till the start of your senior year to pick whether you want to do full-time soldier work or part-time uniform work. Then after you pick that, those of you that want to go active duty, you're going to fill out 1 through 17 on those career fields. And that's where you say, number 1, I want to jump out of airplanes that are still in flight. And all the way down to number 17, I want to be a armor officer and drive a tank. We pick those things. We make those decisions based on how well you have done in the 3 years leading up to it. So this is where my next to closing point is to you, your parents listening, any steward or mentor or coach you've got there with you. The Army is the meritocracy. We recognize and reward achievement, meaning every day is an assessment. The only easy day was the day before, and we're keeping score all the time. So 3 years worth of accumulated points and performance and evaluations and critiques will help us decide whether you get your number 1 pick or you get your number 17 pick. So I tell you that because right now, some of you might erroneously be thinking, hey, I'm just going to get to tech. I'm going to get through this first semester. It's going to be hard in the core and Army and ROTC. I'll kind of pay attention to my classes. But what I'm really at tech to do is to major in Army. I just got to get through tech. It's just in the way. I'm majoring in Army because I'm going to do 30 years. Go ahead and BOLO that first semester's worth of grades. And I can't tell you mathematically how hard you've got to row to catch your peers. You're now down to 5 semesters to catch your peers when you rattle off the 1.37 GPA your first semester. So don't do it. Parents, if you're listening, you ask your kid every week, how are the grades? And if they give you some cockamamie answer like, it's all good, I got an A in Army ROTC, I got D's and everything else, but it's okay, I'm going to be a lieutenant. Well, you're not on track to be a lieutenant. So keep the grades up. 3 years, row hard, place yourself in the lead position, take all of the stress out of that senior year. Do well, assure yourself of getting one of your top picks. I finished with this. I want to tell all of you thanks just for being here. Something has made you decide to at least explore something different than the normal college experience. There's 1 million of your peers that will finish high school this year that will transition into higher institutes of learning, colleges, universities, and such. Less than 10,000 freshmen will start Army ROTC. Just by you being here and exploring this opportunity to serve, because that's what this is about, already separates you from others. Somebody has shepherded you to this point. So whoever's out there with you, I'm telling them thanks. Thanks for shepherding, whether it be a coach, a family, a mentor, whatever it is, you're thinking about serving others. It's exciting at times. It's got great opportunities, but ultimately it's a service career field. And so just by you thinking about that, I say thanks for all you've already done and thanks for considering the Army. We'd love to have you on the team. I look forward to having you join us. I'm going to turn you now over to Ms. Millay and let her close the deal on getting you to sign up for Virginia Tech, for Army ROTC, and get on board with the team. Thank you.
All right, thank you, sir. For those that joined us late, that was Colonel Millay, our professor of military science for Army ROTC, with more than 30 years of experience behind him. My name is Donna Millay. I'm a retired Army officer. I served both on active duty and in the reserves. I have 4 children that have attended senior military colleges, including West Point. And I also have with me today Lieutenant Bowie. You want to raise your hand again? Who is a recent Virginia Tech grad. He was you were civil engineering, is that correct? And he graduated in December, a little bit.
Yes.
He took an extra semester because engineers sometimes need a little bit more time to graduate. So I'm going to show you a little video real quick. And this is a video of our Virginia Tech cadets on campus and training and during some of their summer training. And then I'm going to go over details on scholarships and Army careers. And hopefully we'll have time to answer questions. You can put questions in the chat, and at the end we can go that way. If we run out of time, because I know you have another event to go to, you can always contact Lieutenant Bowie and myself personally, and I'll put up a slide at the end with our contact information. So let's listen to the Virginia Tech video.
As Ms. Millay is pulling up the video, I just wanted to say during the slideshow, you can put any questions in the chat and I'll try to answer it the best I can.
All right, I hope you enjoyed that. Army ROTC training is definitely a lot of fun. I'm going to pull up my slides for you now, and this event is being recorded, so you'll be able to come back and look through these slides later if you like. Sorry, it's not that one. Just 1 second. There it is. All right. So as Colonel Millay mentioned, Army ROTC prepares officers to commission onto the active duty to go to serve in the U.S. Army Reserves or the National Guard. Why is this important? Well, the other ROTCs, Air Force and Navy, all of their officers are going to go on active duty. Now, you do have choices. As the Colonel said, you don't have to choose whether you want to apply to go on active duty, Guard, or Reserve until first semester senior year. So that gives you that gives you 3 years to talk about what your future holds for you. It is nice to have choices. We had a very, we call HUA engineer cadet that wanted to be an engineer officer. And then one year he did an internship with Virginia Tech in the summer with a civilian company. And he came back and said, that's what I want to do full time. So he chose to go into the National Guard. We've had other people come in saying, I'm not sure about this Army thing. I'm just going to try it out. And then over the course of 3 years, they get super motivated, become our top cadets, and then decide to go on active duty. So it's nice to know that you have choices. And again, you don't have to make your final decision of whether you want to go active duty, Guard, or Reserve until first semester senior year. So for those of you that don't know the difference between active duty and the Guard and Reserves, active duty is a full-time job that when you graduate, you'll have maybe a few weeks off, and then you're going to go straight into the Army. You have a job. You don't have to worry about applying for anything. You have a full-time job that has wonderful medical and retirement benefits, housing benefits. We can promise you a commission, but as the Colonel said, we can't promise you your job or your branch, as we call it, your career field. That's going to depend on your performance in college, both academically and in ROTC. So active duty is a full-time job. If you elect to go into the Guard or Reserves, you're going to need a civilian full-time job to live on, most likely. Because you'll only be drilling or training 1 weekend a month and 2 weeks in the summer with the National Guard or U.S. Army Reserves, unless you get called up for an operation. There are some benefits in the Guard or Reserve because you get to apply directly to the unit or the career field branch, as we call it, that you want. So if you want to become an aviation officer, you can find a Guard unit that needs lieutenants and apply to them. And if they accept you into your unit, you get your choice as a aviation officer. The Reserves also has a program called the Partnership for America's Youth, also called PAYS, which is actually a system to help you find your civilian job. You can join this database and select 2 companies that you would like to go work for, and you are guaranteed job interviews with those 2 companies. We can't guarantee you the job, but because they like the military and leadership training that you're getting, they have guaranteed to give you an interview of the top 2 jobs of your choice. You still have to sell yourself in order to get the job, but your resume is not in a stack of 1,000 resumes hoping to get an interview. You have a sure interview. The Guard or Reserve also have other benefits like health insurance. I know you guys don't worry about that right now because you're probably on your parents' health insurance, but these are really inexpensive health insurance compared to what civilian companies offer. As a matter of fact, if you're in a civilian company, you can compare their health insurance and the Guard or Reserve health insurance and choose the one that you find fits you best. And also you'll eventually, if you stay in the Guard or Reserve for 20 years, you will get retirement benefits similar to the type of benefits that the active Army gets, but it'll be prorated based on how much training you actually did or time in the reserves. And you can't get your retirement benefits until you're 60. I know that's a long, long ways away, but believe me, if the stock market crashes, you're going to be happy to be having a retirement benefit coming from the U.S. Army. So what makes us unique from other universities? Let me just, is that we are a senior military college. So we have a special status under Title 10 of the US Code under law that says that if you attend a senior military college and are qualified to be an Army officer and want to go on active duty, then you will get active duty. So there is one catchphrase here, is that you still have to be recommended for active duty by the professor of military science. So what is different with our program versus other Army ROTC programs? Well, every year Cadet Command develops a national order merit list where they rack and stack all 5,000 ROTC cadets, but they don't need all 5,000 on active duty. So if you're in a different ROTC program, you have to compete for an active duty commission. But if you go to a senior military college and the colonel blesses off on you getting active duty, it's a sure thing. You don't have to worry about, did I make the cut for active duty or not? So last year there were about 400 cadets that wanted active duty that did not get active duty because they were not high enough on the order of merit list. So this Title 10 of the US Code increases your chances to get active duty. It's not a guarantee because a professor of military science still has to give you the golden ticket. But if you do well here, you don't have to compete for active duty. You can just request it. So other things that make us different from other ROTC programs is that, as you see in blue, that contracted cadets at regular program have to compete for active duty, whereas at a senior military college, you fall under Title 10 of the US Code. But so all ROTCs, whether it be at a senior military college or in a regular program, will follow the same military education program. It's a Cadet Command program, so you'll be learning pretty much some of the same things. You'll have classes and labs and field training exercises. You'll have scholarships and summer training opportunities. But here at a senior military college, you will also have a Corps and military lifestyle. So you'll be living in the Corps residence halls all together with a military structured lifestyle, but you'll have the camaraderie of having other like-minded people as roommates or on the floor with you. If you go to a regular ROTC program or a civilian school, you might be the only ROTC kid in your dorm, or one of the few kids having to wear a uniform across campus. Your roommates might not understand what it's all about, or they might not be supportive, or they might be supportive, but it's just a different experience. The university, of course, has an honor code, but the Corps of Cadets will hold you to a higher ethics and honor code, much like West Point's, that I will not lie, cheat, or steal, nor tolerate those that do. So we're expecting you to become ethical leaders, so we hold you to very high standards. But as a senior military college, we also have enhanced training facilities that smaller schools can't have, such as we have our own obstacle course, our own rappel tower, land navigation sites, Zodiac boats, physical fitness training facilities. So we have more and better training facilities than some of the smaller ROTC programs. But most of all, it's that last bullet that gives you the special status under Title 10 of the US Code, because the Army realizes that you're getting an increased leadership opportunity and training while you're at a senior military college. You're having a daily leadership structured program. You're going to have leadership responsibilities in the Corps of Cadets for the daily life of the cadets. And you're going to also have leadership opportunities in Army ROTC. All ROTCs will have leadership opportunities, but you're getting twice as many through the Corps and through Army ROTC. Plus, because we're a bigger problem, you're going to be leading more soldiers. We don't have to pretend to have a squad or pretend to have a platoon because we have a small program. We have platoons and companies and battalions. So you'll be leading a lot more soldiers, so get a more realistic leadership experience. So that is one of the primary reasons that the Army gives you Title 10 status under the US Code, is because you get increased leadership opportunities and training. So the National High School Board is over for high school seniors this year. So if you're a senior, it's too late to apply for the National Board. If you're a junior, the National Board will open up in mid-June. So be on the lookout at goarmy.com for the National Scholarship Board. The board offers 3- and 4-year scholarships. If you get a 4-year scholarship, it's activated freshman year. If you're awarded a 3-year scholarship, it's your scholarship that's held in your name, but it does not activate until sophomore year, and you have to meet certain requirements to activate it, such as having at least a 2.5 grade point average, be medically and physically fit. If you did not receive a national scholarship, that's okay. less than half of our cadets come in with national scholarships, but by junior year, we have over 80% of our cadets on scholarship through the campus-based scholarship program. So every 6 months, we hold a scholarship board and give out scholarships within the funding that Cadet Command gives us. And they give us funding to meet our commission mission, which is pretty high. We also have what's called Minuteman or Guaranteed Reserve Force Duty Scholarships. And the Minuteman program is still ongoing. So if you're a high school senior and you did not get a national scholarship and you want to serve in the Guard or Reserve when you graduate and commission, you can apply for a 4-year Minuteman scholarship right now. It's still ongoing. And you would apply for that through the school that you want to attend. So at our school, it would be through my office. Minuteman and Guaranteed Reserve Force Duty Scholarships cover exactly the same as any scholarship. All of our scholarships cover the same thing, but there's a difference. The regular scholarships, we call them, let you choose senior year if you want to go active duty, Guard, or Reserve. If you take a Minuteman scholarship, it means you will serve in the National Guard or the Reserves when you graduate, and you can't change your mind once you sign that contract. That's the only one that limits you. Minuteman scholarships are a little bit easier to get than the regular scholarships, mainly because we have less people competing for those scholarships because most of our kids want to go active duty. If you do get a Minuteman scholarship, you're also required, or a Guaranteed Reserve Force Duty Scholarship, they're the same thing, just 2 different titles, then you will have to drill with a Guard or Reserve unit while you're in college 1 weekend a month, but you'll get paid for that weekend drill. All right, we do have another opportunity for people to help pay for college, and that's through the U.S. Army Reserves or the National Guard. I'll talk about the Virginia National Guard in particular, because if you're an out-of-state student and you join the Virginia National Guard and go to basic training with the National Guard, then you will get in-state rates at Virginia Tech and up to $8,000 a year of state tuition assistance, because you're serving, you might be from a different state, but you're serving the state of Virginia. And if you go on to advanced individual training, you can get an extra $4,000 of federal tuition assistance. So while the Reserves and the Guard can both give you some tuition assistance, the National Guard actually gives you more money than the Reserves does, though they're both great options. It's a little too late to sign if you're a senior coming to Virginia Tech in the fall. There won't be any basic training slots available for this summer, but you could take a semester off or apply for basic training for next summer and then go to basic training and get those in-state rates or and tuition assistance. Now, Virginia residents already get the in-state rates, but they still get the tuition assistance from the Guard. All right. So as I mentioned before, our scholarship benefits are the same for whatever kind of scholarship you get. It's really the same scholarship, they just have different names. So they cover full tuition and fees at the in-state or out-of-state rates, whatever Virginia Tech considers you to be, or room and board, not both. So it's your choice. So if you have other scholarship money or GI Bill benefits coming in and you decide that you have enough money for tuition, you can choose to use it for room and board. Most people choose to use their scholarship for tuition and fees because tuition and fees are more expensive than room and board, especially if you're an out-of-state cadet. You'll get a $420 monthly living allowance during the school year. You get $600 a semester for books. All your Army uniforms will be issued to you for free. All cadets, whether they're scholarship cadets or not, all cadets, like I said, all cadets, scholarship cadets or not, that are in good standing, passing PT and passing their courses, will get about a $900 a year stipend for the core uniforms. So it doesn't cover everything for the core uniform fee, but it covers most of it. If you're an engineer major, engineering is a 4-year program at Virginia Tech, but when you add in the core cadets requirements and the Army ROTC requirements, engineering doesn't count any of those as free electives. So you end up needing probably an extra semester or an extra year to graduate. But that's an individual decision based on how many advanced placement and dual enrollment courses you come in with and how many credits you want to take per semester. So you'll come here and do an academic plan. And if you need an extra year of benefits, whether you're a 3-year scholarship winner or 4-year scholarship winner, you will get that extra year of benefits if you're still an engineer by senior year. Okay? So the scholarship obligation, anyone can try out Army ROTC with no obligation. Your obligation starts when you sign a contract, but you don't have to contract until junior year. So you can try it out for 2 years. Scholarship winners, however, contract to activate their scholarships. So a freshman scholarship winner will sign his contract right away in the fall after he passes the PT test and is medically qualified. However, freshman scholarship winners have no obligation. They can be on scholarship all freshman year, and if they decide Army ROTC is not for them, they can walk away and not owe the Army anything. Now, if you activate your scholarship sophomore year or beyond, it's different. If you quit ROTC or lose your scholarship for poor behavior or poor academics, then you'll have to either repay your scholarship with money or enlisted service. There are some exceptions for medical issues. So if you have a 3-year scholarship, you have freshman year to think about whether you want to activate your scholarship. Because if you're a sophomore and activate your scholarship, then you now have that obligation. The scholarship commitment, you probably heard 4 years. Scholarship cadets can actually choose to go Guard or Reserve. So you don't have to go active duty if you're a scholarship winner. You can still choose Guard or Reserve. If you go active duty, you'll have it's an 8-year commitment for everyone, as you can see on the slide, but it's just kind of divided up differently. Scholarship cadets have an 8-year commitment, but they can go for 4 years on active duty. And then stay on active duty or switch into the Guard or Reserve, or if they don't want to drill anymore, they can ask to be put into the individual ready reserve, where you're just basically a name on the list and you don't have to train anymore with the Army, but you're still susceptible to call up. If you decide to go into the Guard or Reserve, you'll have to drill all 8 years with the Guard or Reserve. If you end up never getting a scholarship, which like I said, is less than 20% of our cadets, then you would only have to serve 3 years on active duty before switching, or you could stay the whole 8 years on active duty, and you would only have to drill 6 years with the National Guard or Army Reserves. So this is the high school scholarship process. I'm not going to go over it in detail, but it opens up in February, and if you need more information, you can read this slide at your leisure, and also go to the goarmy.com scholarship website. I left this one up. This was a look at this past year's deadlines. New deadlines will be posted when they open up the scholarship board, but I only left this up to show you that there are different board dates. Usually the first board is in October, but they had some technical difficulties, so pushed it back to December. So look to October for the first board for next year. All right, that's just an example for the future, but the dates can and will change. So the Minuteman competition is actually on, the Minuteman scholarship campaign is actually ongoing. As I said before, so if you are a high school senior coming to joining college, it doesn't have to be Virginia Tech, but you can apply for a Minuteman Guaranteed Reserve Force Duty Scholarship. Remember, those are the ones that require you to go Guard or Reserves in the future. You have to apply through the school, your school of choice, and work with a National Guard recruiter. Because you have to get a nomination, and I know those are just letters on there, but we'll explain the nomination process. You have to get qualified to be in the military, usually going to the military entrance processing station. You have to get a Guard or Reserve unit that will let you drill with them as a cadet. You're not a private, you're a cadet. So it's a little bit of a complicated process, but you just contact the recruiting officer at the school you want to go to, which, like I said before, would be myself here. It's ongoing. It just opened up on the 31st of March. So all the scholarships are pretty much still available if you're interested in that. And I'd like to make one correction. 4-year scholarships are for residents and non-residents. I thought I corrected this slide. At host schools, and Virginia Tech's a host school. So you're eligible, if you're an in-state or out-of-state student, you're eligible for 3-year and 4-year scholarships. I need to correct that slide. So as I mentioned before, we do campus-based applications every 6 months. You have to have minimum of a 2.5 to apply, but usually to get a scholarship, you want to be closer to a 3.5 GPA. Though we do go down to 2-year scholarships, might get down to the 2.9, 2.7, depending if we still have funding. The Simultaneous membership program is kind of what I told you about. You can join the Virginia Tech, Virginia National Guard and get in-state rates, or the Army Reserves, and you can be in the Guard and the Reserves all 4 years in college. While you're in ROTC, you're simultaneously in the Guard or Reserves and in ROTC, not on scholarship, just a cadet in both, and you can get a lot of benefits such as your paid drill weekends and tuition assistance. The one thing I wanted to mention on the next slide is that even if you're in the Guard of Reserves, you remain eligible to compete for our campus-based scholarships, as well as the Guaranteed Reserve Force Duty scholarships. You also remain eligible for an active duty commission. If you do not take a Guaranteed Reserve Force Duty scholarship and are just a simple simultaneous membership program non-scholarship cadet, you still can commission active duty. So being in the Guard of the Reserves does not restrict you from being on active duty. A Guaranteed Reserve Force scholarship does restrict you, but just being in the Guard of Reserve does not. Now, one of the interesting things too, if you're in the Guard all 4 years in college, your time in service begins at the Guard of the Reserves when you join the Guard of Reserves. So you could graduate with 4 years of time in the military service, which would give you more pay as a lieutenant than your comrades would get. So those of you that want to join ROTC freshman year, that's great. We'd love to have you. But do know, if you're not sure about Air Force or Navy, you can try out one of the other ROTCs and switch into Army ROTC in the middle of freshman year, at the beginning of sophomore year. But after the middle of sophomore year or after sophomore year, we would have to send you to basic camp or basic training to catch you up on any ROTC information that you missed. So it's really easy to join anytime freshman year or at the beginning of sophomore year. Later than sophomore year, we would have to send you probably to some follow-on training. So basic training with the Guard or the Reserve counts for those first 2 years of Army ROTC. Otherwise, we would send you to Army ROTC basic camp, which is only 4 weeks long after your sophomore year of college. It's a 4-year program. I'm not going to go over this in detail. Basic camp is only required if necessary. Advanced camp is mandatory. Summer trainings are optional and competitive, and I'll go over those a little bit more later. I'm not going to go over these in detail, but like I said before, basic camps to catch you up on basic soldier skills, to catch you up on what you had not learned in ROTC. It's not required of everyone. It's only if you need to catch up on ROTC classes. Advanced camp is mandatory after your junior year. It counts towards your National Order of Merit list. They're going to be grading you and testing you on what you've learned for 3 years in Army ROTC. We saw the labs in the video, so I'll just click through that. Some of our activities. Again, those were all in the video. We do have social events and staff rides. Staff rides are where you actually study past battles. Sometimes we do virtual staff rides. Sometimes we do actual visits to Civil War battlefields. We have extracurricular activities you can join. They do have an assessment period. These are the summer training opportunities. We have a lot of summer training opportunities, but not enough for everyone. So we do have to develop you have to request the summer training, and then we develop an order of merit list, and you have to be contracted to attend any of the summer training. So the only freshmen that are contracted are the scholarship winners. After that, sophomores can contract and apply for these. But you can fit in more than one training during a summer, so you could do your mandatory summer training and an Army school. We also have Project Global Officer, which is a language-based program. This, however, is the only activity where you don't have to be contracted. So even non-scholarship freshmen can apply to Project Global Officer. It is a critical language proficiency program, so they will send you overseas or do intensive domestic programs. You can go onto the Project Global Officer website at any time that you want. It has its own website. You can explore all the different opportunities and languages. Some of them have prerequisites, but Virginia Tech runs a Russian program. So you can go to, like I said, any school's summer program and get college credit for it. We have summer internships called active duty internships with active duty units called Cadet Troop Leadership Training. And we have other internships with Department of Defense organizations, as you see listed below, such as the Army Corps of Engineers or at medical centers. We sent National Security Agency. Again, you apply for these, you have to be contracted. Most of the internships are done after junior year. These are our 17 officer career fields. We like to say there's something for everyone, whether it be combat arms, combat service support, combat support. And there's a lot of real world applications. So you could go into the Military Police Corps if you're really into serving in I guess I'm not at a loss for the government, or the legal field. We have Adjutant General Corps, that's Human Resources, Transportation Quartermaster and Ordnance are all logistics functions. Finance Corps for those business majors, Military Intelligence, Medical Service Corps. You can also become a pilot, a medevac pilot through the Medical Service Corps. Our most recent branch is Cyber Operations. If you want to go on to law school or medical school or divinity school, you can join ROTC and go through all 4 years and request an educational delay. And if you have good enough scores, the Army will let you go on to law school or medical school or divinity school on your own before you come into the Army. So we have an educational delay process that we can explain to you more about that junior years when you have to be concerned with that. We do also, as I say, we have a great opportunity of getting our students getting what they want. We can't guarantee you your branch, but as you can see the percentages at the top, a lot of our cadets get the choices that they want. One year we even had 100% of our cadets get one of their top 3 choices. And as you see on the bottom of this slide, there are other branches such as Special Forces, Civil Affairs and Psychological Operations that you can't join right away as a lieutenant, but you can switch into later when you're a captain, senior lieutenant or young captain. All right. So let me see, this is not the slide with the lieutenant's information, but you have my contact information on this slide. The lieutenant, will you put your phone number on the chat, please, so that your phone number and email on the chat so they can all look at that?
Yes, ma'am. I was actually just entering that now.
Okay. All right.
Folks, I'm going to jump in here. The slides we've shown you and the information we've thrown at you is our standard for when the world is operating in a normal environment. So let's quickly address the COVID-19 environment, because this is not meant to create stress. This is meant to reduce stress. Many of you are asking, well, I can't get to a doctor. I can't complete my physical. I can't get my eye exam. I can't finish this medical thing. It's okay. There's 2 groups of you out there. There's the ones that are already holding a scholarship certificate. You have gotten a letter from the Army telling you 4-year scholarship, meaning you want us to start paying for your scholarship the second you walk into Virginia Tech. If you're not medically qualified, if you don't have what's called the DODMERB stamp, D-O-D-M-E-R-B, you know that if you've already been working on it. We can't start paying your money until 3 things happen. Well, for a freshman, you got to be medically qualified. After that, you got to have grades and PT tests. But for a freshman, you have to pass the PT test and be medically qualified. You've already proven your grades in high school. So we're going to give you the PT test. So the first thing you can absolutely influence is get your butts in shape. You will be taking the Army physical fitness test. Take all the other new stuff you've heard and put it out of your head. The Army combat fitness test and the rollout plan, Army physical fitness test. 2 minutes of sit-ups, 2 minutes of push-ups, and a 2-mile run. You know your age, you know your sex, you've got everything you need now to go online and look at the score charts. You must get a 70 points in each event, okay? So you got to pass that test. I think I got those numbers right. Look on there, you'll see the passing scores. Show up able to do that. If you've got a DODMERB medical stamp, you're good to go. We're going to start your money flowing. We're going to pay the semester of your first semester college year. If we can't get you medically qualified by the end of the semester, and we move to the next semester, and we even move into the summer after that, if the only reason we're not paying your money and you're not contracted is due to the medical process, then whenever that gets stamped, we're going to go back and pay the semesters in the rears. So we have had students take an entire school year and an entire summer to get through the medical process. They had something the doctor wanted to examine. They wanted a 6-month test of something. Sometimes you may have to pay the money out of your pocket to the university. The university will wait a good while, but after a semester has closed out, they start getting a little antsy. And when we're in March and they haven't gotten money for the fall semester yet, we reach a point with them where they say, hey, we need some money. And that means you or your family's going to pay. But when you get medically qualified, the Army will pay the university for the semesters that you've already accomplished. And then the university will pay you back. Okay. Then there's some of you that want to compete for scholarships. You want to get here and you want to compete for the on-campus scholarship. Same thing. Start your medical process if you can. Certainly when we get back to times being normal, get here and let us initiate it with you so that if we get money for a 3.5-year scholarship on campus or a 3-year scholarship on campus, you're already medically qualified. So don't go through a lot of stress right now because you can't get to a doctor and you think we're going to take money away from your 4-year scholarship. We're not. If it's only due to medical, when you get medically qualified, we'll pay you back. You'll get the money, and hopefully we get it done fast enough that Tech doesn't send a collector to your door. But they usually ride it through exams with us, and they ride a first couple weeks into the next semester. After that, they want their money. Now, if you can't start your scholarship due to a failure of your own part, then we don't start your scholarship, and we're not going to pay you back when you fix your own mistakes. So if you show up here and you can't pass the Army physical fitness test the entire first semester, you have just lost a semester of scholarship benefits. I don't care if you pass it the first day back after winter break. If you can't pass the PT test for a semester, you don't get any money. And after we start the scholarship, if you can't pass the PT test for a whole semester, we take it again. Unfortunately, we have freshmen, sophomore, juniors, and believe it or not, this year, 2 seniors that failed their PT test. So when it's due to your fault, you don't get the money. When it's due to the slow medical system or they're waiting on a test result from an ant allergy, we'll go back and pay you the money, even if you had to pay it yourself. Okay, I want to put everybody at ease about that. All right, we're open for questions. We'll stay till the last person's on.
Well, I did want to mention, though, they are supposed to join the cadet panel. So I posted in the chat, you're supposed to go back to your original link that the Corps gave you, which I put in the chat box. That doesn't mean you can't stay here and ask us questions, but if you have no questions, please go, copy down our contact, take a picture of our contact information there or screenshot, and then you can ask us questions later if you'd like, or stay on, we'll stay on for questions. But if you have no questions, you can go to the cadet panel at the original Corps Cadet link that you were given to start off with.
Ma'am, would you like me to stay on and answer any questions they may have here, or do you want me to switch to the cadet panel?
Stay here with us for now.
Okay. Also, for those that are staying, if you had questions for the cadet panel, I can most likely answer them because, as stated earlier, I just graduated in December, so very familiar with the whole process.
Thanks, everybody. We hope to see you here next year.
Thank you. Stay safe.
Any questions out there?
I know a lot of people were asking questions during the in the chat during your brief, so most likely most of the questions should be answered. I see one. How often do you use your major in the Army? I just saw that question. I'll answer it here. It depends. Your major, for one, teaches you your specific major, yes, but it also teach you, how to learn. So you use that for the rest of your life, but it can depend. I did civil engineering. I had a buddy that did civil engineering. He's in the Corps. He's in the heat branch engineering. So that way, it can be applicable, but it just depends what you branch and what your major is. It could apply, it may not. You could be a history major and be, an aviation officer. It's just gonna depend on what your major is and what you branch.
Yeah, I myself was a military intelligence officer, and I was an international relations major. But it wasn't actually until I became a foreign area officer that my major and my Army job actually jived. So it might not have been when I was a lieutenant, but I did actually use my major later in my Army career.
Another question is, do you know roughly how big the freshman class is in the Corps, and for what percentage of that is Army ROTC? So I know the Corps in total, I believe, is just under 1,200. Ma'am, you might have better numbers on that. For
The Corps usually brings in about 365 students. They've gone up to 400 at one time. And in Army ROTC, we bring in between 120 and 130 freshman cadets. 120 and 140 freshman cadets. All right, well, if there aren't any more questions, then why don't you, I'll go join the cadet panel and you'll have the opportunity, Lieutenant, you can go switch over to the cadet panel also. And you can still ask questions there. And if one of the cadets can't answer, Lieutenant Bowie can. Thank you very much for joining us.
You may